How much more powerful can C0 Ayato become with each new constellation? Well, this video is going to show you the maximum damage you can achieve from his constellations, and there's definitely a few surprises that I did not expect to see. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Echoes of Mana and Amazon Coins. Do you like old school RPGs? And how about getting good deals? Well, the upcoming Echoes of Mana title by Square Enix features an original story of the Mana series, action-packed gameplay, and gorgeous 2D artwork, which can all be enjoyed with your friends or in a multiplayer mode. Now, this upcoming gacha game can be downloaded from Amazon App Store, and the reason why you want to do this is that you can save up on your in-app purchases by using Amazon Coins, and all you have to do is have an Android or Amazon device, download the Amazon App Store, open it up, and get Echoes of Mana from there. Then just create an account and top up with Amazon Coins, which you can then use either on Echoes of Mana or any other game that can be found inside the Amazon App Store. And currently, there's a special offer available in the game where if you spend at least 10,000 Amazon Coins, you'll get 1,000 back, which is a pretty insane saving instead of using the regular in-app purchases. So if you're thinking of making in-app purchases for your favorite games, at least use Amazon Coins for some great savings. You can learn more about this and follow the steps by using my link in the description, and by doing so, you'll help support my channel big time. Echoes of Mana will come out later in April, so make sure to download Amazon App Store now and don't miss out on this offer. So if you haven't seen my C0 Ayato showcase video, where I pretty much covered everything about him, well, my initial thoughts were that he's pretty good, and I was happy with his C0 potential. But now, in this video, I want to see just how busted he gets with extra constellations, all the way to the final one, as well as witness the power of his fully refined signature weapon. Now, in this video, I will be using on him the Heart of Depth artifact set for the sake of getting consistent results, because the new Echoes of Offering set is kind of unstable and can provide big damage buff to his normal attacks, and this would make it harder for you to see the improvements he gets from constellations. Also, he will be using his unrefined signature weapon, and I will also sometimes give him critical rate food too, again, just to obtain the numbers efficiently for the sake of my own sanity. Finally, 5 out of his 6 constellations are all designed to boost his normal attack damage from his skill, so the majority of time I will spend testing out only his elemental skill, and to keep things clean, I won't be using his burst, which can provide 20% normal attack damage boost, which isn't huge, and I'll only include the final outcome at the end of the video. Now, with all of that said, starting out with the 0 constellations, and with the build I'm using, he will deal roughly about 10,000 damage from each of his slashes, and since I can get a total of 15 slashes based on hit lag, this puts to a maximum potential of 150,000 overall damage, which isn't that bad even if he does spend around 6 to 7 seconds unleashing these attacks. Remember, all of these tests are done purely to evaluate his raw damage potential, so there's no one like Benny, Kazuha, or Yunjin buffing him up, and overall, I think this is pretty good without buffs, and my artifacts aren't at their max potential, so you could see even better results after obtaining something like Echoes of Offering artifact set. Now, moving over to his first constellation, when he uses his elemental skill slash attacks against opponents below 50% HP, the slashes will gain 40% more damage, and if I understand this correctly, it's basically adding 40% to all of these 3 multipliers you see on this combo here, so that seems pretty nice. And looking at the results, the moment the poor flower gets below 50% HP, he starts dealing stronger slash damage, and as I expected, it's not a dramatic improvement, but a pretty good one overall, since if we assume he starts to use the skill against an enemy with less than half health, overall he gains about 16.5% damage increase. I mean, we're talking about his first constellation here, which also works only in a certain condition, so I didn't really expect Hoyoverse would want people to get a really strong upgrade from the get-go. Let's take a look at his second constellation. So normally, you can gain up to 4 Namisen stacks when using his skill, which is really easy to do thanks to the passive he has, where you can literally obtain all 4 stacks after using the skill nearby to an enemy, but keep in mind, I am on Hoyo's special media server, and my clone doesn't explode immediately due to some weird inconsistency, but that doesn't really affect things in the end, when I can just calculate the difference easily. Anyway, so now Ayato can get up to 5 Namisen stacks, and if that's not enough, when he gets at least 3 stacks, his maximum HP increases by 50%. And right from the start, I can already see a big improvement to his damage from this constellation. Not only will he slash for more damage than his previous constellation, but he also gains a big boost to health, which in my case goes from roughly 23,000 all the way to almost 30,000. This is something that matters to him since Namisen stacks improve his slash damage based on the maximum health he has, so this is why we're already seeing a nice damage increase, which results in about 20% overall increase from 0 constellations, and what's even better, this damage increase is also applied to enemies below 50% HP, so he even produces bigger damage numbers with all 5 Namisen stacks. I also want to quickly appreciate that there is a nice visual change to his stacks now, but I guess you won't notice it when you're busy in combat. Alright, so now it's time to activate his third constellation. This is a pretty simple one. He gets 3 additional levels for his elemental skill, which essentially means his Namisen stacks, slash damage, and even water clone are going to deal more damage. And whoa, this is definitely a big jump in power I'm seeing. He literally starts slashing away for 14,000 damage to almost 16,000 damage on the last multiplier of his combo, and things get even more scary when the Cryoflower gets below 50% health. I actually didn't expect such a drastic improvement, because this gives him almost 48% damage increase when compared to C0 Constellations, or a big jump of 28% damage increase when going from his second to third constellation. But I wouldn't say this spike in power is on the same scale when compared to Raiden, although it is a pretty huge improvement with all things considered. Now his fourth constellation is a little tricky. After using his burst, everyone, including himself, will gain 15% normal attack speed, and since at this point you already know that these slashes are considered to be normal attacks, we should expect to see some interesting results. And the thing is, without any speed buffs, I can get about 15 hits normally, but sometimes due to hit lag or server's latency, it can be 14, maybe 16 hits. So when I activated this constellation, I noticed after many attempts, it basically provides about 3 to 4 extra hits when using his slash attacks, and while that may not seem like a big deal, you'd be surprised I got about 30% damage increase when compared to his third constellation, or putting him at 78% damage increase when he has no constellations. And this is me being extremely conservative and only counting extra 3 hits he gets from his skill. Now, the problem I can immediately see here is that while the number looks big initially, it's important to consider that you need to stand in one place and deliver all of the slashes, which isn't going to happen all the time because if you're in the Abyss, he can get interrupted, unless you're utilizing him in freeze teams. Moving on, his fifth constellation is really just a bump in the road before getting to the final one, and it improves his burst damage by about 17%, which can be a nice thing to have if you're pairing him together with Venti, so more raindrops can land on the same target. We're finally at the end. So his last constellation will unleash 2 extra powerful hits after he slashes for the first time when the skill is activated, and what really surprised me was that he actually produces these 2 watery images of himself that stylishly strike from both sides, and the damage is actually pretty good. Now these special attacks do not take into consideration Namisen stacks, but since it uses 450% of Ayato's attack, anyone that buffs his attack will also increase the damage further. These 2 special hits actually produce a big chunk of his overall damage, and based on the target that's not below 50% health, this makes Ayato gain about 46% damage increase compared to his 4th constellation, or in total, if we compare him to his old C0 version, this puts him at a whopping 124% extra damage increase potential, and I can immediately tell you that the difference is staggering. When I took him to the Abyss and tested out his international team comp, where previously at C0, I was able to get a best result of 56 seconds clear, but now with this monster of a boba tea drinker, even without landing my rotations perfectly, I could finish the same chamber in about 34 seconds, and I bet with this newfound power, I could shave off to at least 30 seconds or below. And keep in mind, these damage potential assumptions were made against targets who are still above 50% health, because if you go up against someone below half of their health, I found that he gains even bigger, 160% damage potential increase. But we're not done yet. Since all of this time I was using his unrefined signature weapon, I also went ahead and fully refined it, and what do you know, it's more damage. That provides about 30% increase to his overall damage at max refinement. So, what do I think about these constellations? I mean, they're here to make big bucks for Hoyoverse, and it's fun to see the numbers go up, but I definitely wouldn't bother going for his first constellation, and only if you truly like him, then maybe C2 or C3 are good places to stop by. The thing about damage dealers and their constellations is that they don't really provide any value to other characters besides themselves, and sure, you could say that Ayato's 4th constellation boosts everyone's normal attack speed by 15%, which is technically correct, but come on, how many more teammates will you really utilize, maybe besides Yoimiya, for this kind of buff? I still think he's absolutely fine at C0 constellations, but I can see that Hoyoverse went pretty hard with making him deal insane damage with extra constellations, especially his 4th and last one, which really surprised me, but as always, I only expect people to go for these extra constellations if they are either extremely financially stable, or when he comes back later in reruns when you have more Primo Gems saved up. Remember, with good teammates and equipment, you can easily clear the Abyss on 9 stars, so you really are just getting these constellations for him alone, and to see big numbers go boom. But still, I like that he has 2 new visual elements when he is at max constellations. The first one being his Namisen stacks have a different look, and he also gains a really cool animation at C6. Oh, and of course, if you've been watching this video so far, you can see some ridiculous things you can start doing with him when you add damage boosters like Benny and Kazuha into the mix. But I hope you enjoyed this quick video, and I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and maybe, gently press that like button. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you soon.